guys. Welcome to another episode of Crisp, the podcast. I am Matthew Farrenby, and I'm here with my dad.
I'm Sonny Farrenby. Welcome.
And I think you said you have something for the intro for today. So
Yes, I was just thinking about. First, I started thinking about the Greek alphabet for whatever reason. Came out of nowhere. The Greek letters, and we are both engineers. I think our training, especially if you do a lot of engineering or math stuff, we are exposed to a lot of the letters in the Greek alphabet. So, how many of them can you remember? If you can go from beginning to the end, from the first one, you should know the first one.
Alpha,
Okay.
beta. That's it after that. I mean, I obviously know like the ones in math, like theta, phi.
What about some of the fraternity and things? Because they named them after
I guess so.
Greek letters.
Yeah, sigma.
Sigma is in math too. That's
Sigma is
summation.
in math. Yeah. Gamma. Delta. Delta's in math too. Yeah.
Many of them are used. Well, actually, all of them, I think.
Yeah. It's
Can
just
advanced
like
math.
it's something I'd have to think about. It
Yeah.
doesn't immediately come to mind. I think
Yeah.
so.
I still also remember Omega.
Oh, is it Chi?
Yeah, there's Chi. There's
Yeah.
Chi. There's Psi. I think it's Psi.
Yeah,
PSI.
Psi.
There's Chi. Omega. Well, Omega is the last one. Alpha and Omega. That's where I come from. The first and the last. Omicron.
Omicron. Yeah.
Omicron is Epsilon.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Epsilon. That one's like an E.
How many letters do they even have?
I don't know. I don't know. It's probably. I'm thinking it's close to. In the English language, we have 26. I think.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it may be around the same number, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. I'm not sure, but we've never counted it. Row. There's row also. Yeah, I remember row, and we're not actually saying it in order. But here's one. When I began to think about the Greek alphabet, Kappa. That's K.
Honestly,
Sounds
just
like
remembering this the fraternities and sororities that
Actually,
from college.
once you say it in my head, I can remember how you write them. Especially in math, usually you use the lowercase of them most of the time. Yeah. Occasionally you use the uppercase, like sigma. Sigma usually is the uppercase. Sigma you use for summation. But once again, as we're talking about some of these Greek letters, it casts my mind back to another alphabet that maybe a lot of people don't know about, but maybe they have heard people use them, especially in the military, maybe. It's called the phonetic alphabet.
Oh, okay.
The phonetic alphabet is actually based on our normal English alphabet, A to Z, but it's phonetic. They call it phonetic alphabet because in old radio communications, and I remember this, when I was in college, one of the co-op I did was in a radio communications company. So I actually learned this.
Isn't alpha one of them? Because I know that's Greek, and then that's also...
Yeah, that's the reason why I began to make the correlation. So some of them are actually they are common. A few of them are common to both. So when you do radio communications, those days, places where there's no telephone, and they have these big towers, and you do radio communication that is, all this. Imagine those walkie-talkie that people use. Those are shortwave kind of a thing. But this one, I remember in the morning when we come to work, we get on the radio and we're talking to the other two branches of the company. One is about 1,000 miles away, and the other one maybe about 500 and something miles away. And we talk to them on radio. So we test the equipment to make sure everything is fine. And sometimes the transmission is so garbled with all the noise in the background. So somebody say a word. So if you are sending a message, you actually read the message, you are saying the words. But if they cannot get the word that you are saying, then you spell it. So the phonetic alphabet It's how you spell it. So you don't just spell them A, B, C because
Yeah, because even like differences between B and V, and
exactly.
it's hard to tell,
Exactly.
especially over radio. It's hard enough to tell over the phone nowadays.
Yeah, yeah. So I remember that. So it is Alpha, Bravo, Charlie. Now I still remember this. Let me see if I can get all of them. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, Golf, Hotel, India, Juliet, Kilo. What's the next one? L. Yeah. Lima. What's M? I don't remember M.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I don't.
The only thing I know is like from like watching shows when
Yeah,
they say.
you see some of those. I don't remember M. N is November. November, Oscar, Papa, Quebec. Oh, R is Romeo. Romeo
Okay.
and Juliet. J is Juliet. R is Romeo.
Okay.
P, Q, R is Romeo. S, Sierra. T, Tango. U, Uniform. V, Victor. W, Whiskey. X is X-ray, then Yankee, Zulu.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess I still remember it. Apart from, I don't remember M. I don't remember what M is. But anyway, it's just it's just fun. I don't know if they still use it. Actually, I think the official name is called the NATO phonetic alphabet. NATO, the NATO military alliance with other countries.
M is Mike.
Oh, it's Mike. See, it's even simple.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I forgot it. Yeah. So it's just funny as I was thinking about Greek letters and how we use them a lot in math and in engineering. Then I remember the phonetic alphabet, how some of them they're similar. Right. All right.
Okay, so I guess we wanted to hop into the main topic of today, which is somewhat of a continuation of what we did last time, which is kind of like introversion or extroversion, but taking that on a different side, I guess, which I guess you wanted to.
Yeah. So because of what we discussed last time about introversion and extroversion, it took my mind back to where, for most people, where this came from. Most people will recognize introversion and extroversion from the personality type test called the MBTI, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, from the MBTI. So the MBTI, when you take the assessment, is the one that pegs you as introverts and extroverts and so on. And there are actually 4 dimensions in the MBTI. One of them is just introversion and extroversion. The other ones are thinking and feeling.
Right.
Then we have sensing and intuition, and then the last one is judging and perceiving. So as I was thinking about it, I just thought, we did extroversion and introversion. Maybe we talk about thinking and feeling. It doesn't mean we are going to go through all 4 of them, but I think we just talk about thinking and feeling because it's also, in most cases, I think it's equally important. If people rank all these 4 of them, most people identify introversion and extroversion, and I think thinking and feeling probably comes second when you look at them and when you try to rank them rank them when you want to rank them. All right. So here's the funny thing. Thinkers, talking about feeling, thinking, and thinkers and feelers. So thinkers are the people who like to deal in facts and figures. So these are the people who tend to see things in absolutes. So with the thinking people, there are more often than not, there are no gray areas.
Okay.
So is that right or wrong? Something is that right or wrong, is yes or no, is white or black, is true or false. They see things in binary absolutes. Also, they tend to, because they see things in absolutes, they tend to be kind of straight and direct to the point. So these are the kind of people who, in a way, they don't care if they hurt your feelings when they are saying things.
Right.
They will say, okay, this is the truth that I know, and I'm going to give it to you, whether that's brutal. And actually, they will give it to you most of the time in a brutal manner, in a very frank, no feeling kind of manner. So they're kind of straight and direct to the point. Occasionally, I hear some people tell me, they said something like, maybe my boss just doesn't like me, or there's something because, when he or she is talking to me, it's just like he's angry all the time or something like that. And it may not just be that your boss does not like you. It may just be like they're just thinking people who they're just direct and straight to the point. They don't beat around the bush, They just say it as they see it. Now, one other thing about thinking people is that they tend to be good at analyzing what's wrong with something because they are thinkers. They are thinkers, like that's why I said they are good with facts and figures. They can easily look at things and say, this is what's wrong. So they are the kind of people who say something like, no, this is the truth. If you look at the facts, they look at the facts of a situation and they say, based on the facts, based on what we know, this is the truth. This is what we need to do. This is the right course of action that we need to follow. And more often than not, you cannot get them to deviate from that because they will just stick to it and say, no, this makes sense. This is not rocket science.
Right.
This is not brain surgery. This is clear. This is clear. We need to do it this way. Do you know anybody like that?
You, probably. But I mean, I think, and I the more you say it, I see a lot of myself in it too. But I think, like the same thing with extroversion and introversion, as much as you lean towards one side, it's not fully like that 100% of the time, I think. So there's definitely situations where you lean more towards the feeling side, and myself too. So I think with everyone, it's all with how you come across or interact sometimes.
Yes.
But
so, well, like you said, apart from me, do you know anybody else that you know, maybe in our family, your friends, people you work with? Are there anybody that also like that?
I mean, I'm not trying to call people out to listen to this, but I'll just say I can't think of anyone right now. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Thinking people or thinkers, they tend to see things in absolutes, and they will tell you this is the truth. You cannot argue with the truth. No,
I will say, just thinking about it now, not in specific people, but I would say, just thinking out loud, that I would say men are usually thinkers and women are usually feelers. In my experience, I would.
Yeah,
I would
maybe
think,
more. I don't think.
at least in my interactions, I
Yes.
think that's what
Okay.
I've seen.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I don't know. Maybe there is, but I have not come across any kind of research or study that kind of backs that up. But I think I definitely get what you're saying because thinkers are the people that will say this is the truth. These are the facts. Let's you cannot argue. Say you cannot argue with the fact. This is the truth. But here's the funny thing: the other side, the feeling people, they want to argue with your fact. Yeah. Now, it's not like the feelers are saying that your facts are wrong. They're not saying that. All they are saying is that let's consider how this makes people feel. So they are much more concerned about how situations feel, how it makes people feel. They may not deny the facts. Thinkers look at the logic, the facts of the situation, and they try to make decision on it. But the feeling people will say, they are not denying the facts. They're just saying, let's consider how this makes people feel. So feeling people, for example, they like to build rapport with people. They also tend to take things personally because you can easily hurt their feelings. They are feelers, after all. So you can easily hurt their feelings. They want their feelings to be recognized by other people. If you hurt their feelings, they can carry a grudge. Those are the feeling people. So because of that, because they are feeling people and they want you to recognize their feelings, they also tend to recognize other people's feelings. So they try to be sympathetic to others. They try to be tactful in the way they would deal with others. And they expect you to be sympathetic and tactful with them. And more often than not, they will make a decision based on those feelings. They will make decisions based on what they think is important to them and other people, not necessarily on the facts, not necessarily on the logic, on the facts of the situation, because they will think, I don't want to hurt their feelings. So these are the people who it will be very difficult for them to do something that is considered tough, that they think may hurt other people's feelings, even though they know in their heart that that's the right thing to do, but they don't want to do it, even though the facts are staring them in the face. And the funny thing is that just like we talked about introversion and extroversion, we're talking about being situational. What I've learned with thinking and feeling also is that neither one is better, And then we didn't talk about this last time, but if I had asked you, if I have described the attributes of introverts and extroverts, and I asked people, which one do you think is better? What do you think they would have said?
They probably would answer based on what they are.
Exactly.
So
exactly. Yeah. Most people will say the one they are is better. If you're an introvert and you hear the attributes, you say introverts are better. Of course, we are better than them. If you're an extrovert, you say extroverts are better.
And that's, I think, the main reason for that is that you just don't fully understand the other side.
The other side, exactly. So, but like we established last time, although we didn't really say this, neither one is better. We're just different. We're different, and when we begin to understand those differences and begin to understand where other people are coming from, we allow them to be who they are. And that's the problem. The problem is that many of us, we don't allow people to be who they are. We want them to fit into our own mold. So if I'm an introvert, if I'm not careful, if I'm not intentional, my natural tendency is to expect everybody to behave like introvert. If I'm an extrovert, my natural tendency will to expect everyone to behave like an extrovert. Right. So but we have to understand that. And here's the same thing with thinking and feeling. If you look at both, neither one is better. We're just different. In fact, I can tell you that you cannot lead a business or lead a team by being either a pure thinker or a pure feeling person. If you are a pure thinking person and you lead a team or a group of people, you're going to have a very high turnover on your team. Yeah. People won't want to stay. They won't want to stay. The people will be leaving. If they have a choice, they will leave easily. They will leave in because of the way you make them feel most of the time. So because of that, one of the things I at least try to coach leaders is that if you are a pure thinking person, once you understand that, the fact that I'm a thinking person means that they are feeling people on the other side. And I may be dealing with feeling people. So if I'm a thinking person, I want to bring around feeling people around me when I'm making decisions. Right. So that at least I bring them on so that I can understand their perspective. Even though I'm thinking, this is the fact, this is the logic, this is how we're supposed to go.
Yeah, and I think it also comes back to just self-awareness too, because if you realize I lean towards this thinking or feeling with that, whichever one it is, and you realize that it makes you more cautious about when you make decisions, because like, okay, I have this tendency. So
exactly.
Yeah, like you said, having someone on the opposite side to help with that definitely will help, or just being conscious of that is definitely one of the first steps.
Yeah,
too, so.
You definitely hit the nail on the head when you mentioned self-awareness. And that's a very, very important thing. Part of self-awareness, real strong self-awareness, is understanding who I am, who each person is. So each one of us understand this is my personality type, this is my tendency. I'm an introvert or I'm an extrovert. I'm a thinking person or I'm a feeling person. And because of that, this is the way I tend to do things. So that's the first part, I think, with self-awareness. The second side or the flip side of that is understanding that, okay, if I am like this, then the opposite exists.
Right.
And the people I'm dealing with, they may be on that side of the spectrum. So if I'm an extrovert, I may be engaging an introvert. And instead of, like we said earlier, trying to force the introvert to behave like me, an extrovert, I have to make the effort to allow the extrovert to be who they are.
Yeah.
And I think that's the job of leadership. For that's part of self-awareness, allowing them, realizing I'm like this, they may be like that, and let me allow them to be who they are, instead of trying to put them into my mold. And the third part of that is knowing my tendency, knowing that other people's tendency and personality may be opposite or different. I begin to pay attention to how my behavior come across to others. That's part of self-awareness.
Yeah. And I think I've said it before, but being self-aware to the point of knowing that you can only be so self-aware in that when someone points out certain things that you didn't see, not getting so defensive about things like that. 'Cause I think that's one of the things that our natural response is to be defensive about things like that.
Yes.
So
most of us tend to be. We tend to be defensive. So as I was saying before about with teams, if you are a thinking person, you want to bring a feeling person. Because if not, you're going to be rubbing your teams the wrong way. They are not going to stay. They're not going to want to stay. They're going to be around you. So a purely thinking person, you cannot lead a team, lead a business, run a business, or do anything productive. Now, somebody may be thinking, well, maybe if you're a purely feeling person, you may be able to do that. No, you can't do that either. Because if you're a purely feeling person, guess what?
we walked all over. Probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People will walk all over you. First of all, you are not going to see any amount of success in whatever you do. Because, like you said, people will walk all over you. They will do whatever they want, knowing that you feel for them. So if you are a leader that is a completely or fully feeling person, or a business owner, you cannot run a business. You go bankrupt. You go bankrupt, you will not see any success. When you are like that, because you carry people who tend to be dead weight on your team. People who are not pulling their weight or who are not contributing. And you need to let them go, but you don't want to let them go.
Right.
Because you are thinking, well, if I let them go now, maybe they have families, they have responsibilities, how are they going to pay their bills and things like that. So you feel for them. But also, like I said, you cannot run a business, you cannot lead a team completely by being a feeling person. You need to bring the thinking person also around you, so that as you run your decisions through the thinking person, it can be balanced.
Right.
And that's one of the best things I've seen. Organizations that do very well with teams, they tend to put teams together that has different personality types. And I think a few years ago we had, even before a few years ago, in the early 1990s, I remember this, Shell, the Shell company. Most of you know our Shell gas stations around. Yeah, Shell, the big oil company. I think the official name is the Royal Shell. It's a Dutch company, Royal Shell company. I think in the early 1990s, they actually had a kind of existential problem where, because of all their, it was a global company, so all their drilling operations, oil exploration all over the globe, a lot of environmentalists came against them and started complaining about them. And here was the funny thing. The way Shell responded was actually is like pouring more gas on the fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, with the way they responded, and it inflamed people more, and they couldn't understand. They could not understand why. Because their response was very logical to them. So eventually, they hired a team of management consultants to come and help them on their leadership team, and they actually gave them, one of the things they did was this Myers-Briggs type indicator, the test. They took that and they found out all the people. Now, by the way, Shell, because of their operations and everything, most of the people and most of the leadership, they were engineers.
Yeah.
Most of them are engineers. And when they took the test, the assessment, all of them are what Myers-Briggs would call INTJ. They are introverts and they are thinkers. So that's the I and the T in the INTJ. They are introverts and they are thinkers.
Right.
So I think the thinking part of them, not the feeling part, looking at the logic and the fact of the situation, the way they responded, it rubs these environmentalists the wrong way, where most of them are probably feeling people.
Yeah.
And then it inflamed the whole situation. So I remember that because maybe a few years ago, if you remember, the Mark Zuckerberg, the Facebook guy, was also called to Congress.
Yeah.
Was called to Congress to go and testify about something. And the way he was responding to their questions also was not, it was baffling to this.
Well, I think I think that's also a separate topic too, because I think the way he was asked certain questions were, the people who asked him were almost out of touch with like how technology worked in that sense. Yeah. So sometimes some questions would be like, even I feel like most rational people like, what is this?
Well, now here's the thing. Facebook also, actually, Facebook and Google, most of them are engineers.
Yeah.
Most of them are software engineers. So they also tend to be INTJs. Like, in fact, I searched, I found out Mark Zuckerberg is INTJ. Most engineers tend to be INTJ when they take the assessment. So just like you have responded, the way the thinking person will think is that you have no clue what you are talking about. Really, this is rational. This is the thing. Yeah. But you are talking to people who are maybe feeling people. And so the message is not getting across. That's the thing. The message is not getting across. So, and that's one of the things that I have learned, that as a thinking person, I'm a thinking person, by the way, also. I've learned as a thinking person, when I want to deliver a message, I want to find a way to put myself in the shoes of the feeling person. No matter how difficult that is, just to put myself in there. As, okay, if I deliver this way, will somebody be easily offended by it, even though I know it's the truth? Right. Now sometimes you can't help it because it's just who you are. But when you are intentional and you think about the situation, maybe you can. And that's why, like I said, the best organizations I've seen, when they put teams together, whether teams working on a product or a project, or even at the leadership level, executive level, the teams there, they want to make sure that they are comprised of people with different personalities. Because when they do that, there are kind of checks and balances amongst them. So
even each other out.
Yes. Bro. So that one side is not dominating the other side. So none of us we're not going to be fully successful when we are purely thinkers or purely feeling people. We need a blend. And like I said, if you're a thinker, bring feeling people around you, work with them, see how they think, how they talk. Eventually, it kind of rubs off on you. The same thing, the feeling person, bring the thinking people around you, see how they reason, how they think through things. It rubs off on you. You want to work in a team like that. Eventually, if you work well enough with the other side, you are able to begin to at least be intentional about putting yourself in their shoes, right, and be able to see things the way they see it.
Yeah, I think that's good. And something else that popped into my mind as we were talking about this is, and it's probably a topic for maybe another time, is just like understandability versus like things being like justified in certain situations. Because like you think about if you hear someone stole food, for example, it's like the justification for that is like obviously they should either go to jail or just would be something that should happen as a result of that.
Justice. Yeah.
But if you dig deeper, it's like, oh, they stole food because they're too poor to afford food, and then they stole food for their family or something like that. It doesn't justify it, but it makes you understand why certain situations may have happened.
Exactly. And that exactly what you said bring us something that is a social issue. In fact, a lot of things that is a social issue when some people think one way and other people think another way. I think it goes to this thinking and feeling kind of a thing. Because the thinker will say, that guy is a thief. He's a thief, and the law says you steal, you pay the price. You go to jail or something. Right. So once again, thinkers are cut dry. They see things in absolutes, this right or wrong. So they want to put the person in jail for the rest of their lives for stealing a loaf of bread or something. Yeah. But like you said, the feeling person will say, you know what? This person is hungry and they are starving and their family is starving.
And I think sometimes the thinking person won't even dig that deep. They just see the situation. But yeah.
No, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, the feeling person will want to know why and things like that. So definitely this is not just it's not just an academic exercise. It is something that permeates a lot of our actions, things that we do on a daily basis, and it can affect the way we deal with one another. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to?
No, I think that's it. That's it. I think after we talked about extroversion and introversion last time, I thought talking about thinking and feeling is also a good point because it brings out something about how we approach things, how we make decisions, how we see other people's behaviors, and it impacts a lot of things in our lives. Yeah.
Well, guys, this has been another episode of Crisp, the podcast. As always, give us a like on YouTube, give us a rate on Spotify and Apple Music, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you next time.